Welcome to the part 2 of the Royal Hero tier list.
Let's start with Arishta, because she is the fastest. She has 126 speed, 136 if you have her skin, which makes her the highest speed unit in the game. S tier. All of her abilities, active or passive, are really good. Her ult deal damage to all enemies and dispel 2 stacks of buffs. Also apply Confuse on 2 random enemies. This is a very powerful ability. As we mentioned, Arishta is one of the fastest units in the game, so her Confuse effect will CC the opponent before they take action. That could potentially stop some critical units like a Troops, Eudora, or Elmer from casting their ultimate, which is super impactful. Her active skill will whip other allies, which will deal damage equal to 10% of their current health. It's current health, so don't worry about your units dying to this, and they will heal back up. But your allies will somehow get inspired by this and gain 50% of damage boost and purify 2 stacks of debuffs, which is great utility, whether it's in PvP or PvE. As for the self-harm damage part, 10% current health rarely matters. It's more of a flavor thing than an actual downside. Her passive is also great. She increased the reflect rate of all allies by 20%. Most Doomsday heroes only increase their own reflect, but Arishta will provide reflect to your whole team. She also has 30% damage reduction, which makes her very tanky. Also note that when she successfully confuses enemies while you have the Scale Relic, she will gain 75% bonus max health. Again, damage reduction and max health scale multiplicatively. That can allow Arishta to take a lot of hits. S tier. Next we have Lamia. Lamia is known for counter-attacking with her ultimate ability. She has a 30% chance to trigger Sanctuary when attacked, and whenever Sanctuary triggers, cast her ultimate once, dealing 50% of her original ult damage. Her exclusive rune will ramp up her ultimate damage for each time she casts her ult. I put her in S tier. Her Sanctuary effect can allow her to survive in battle, and survivability is especially important for Doomsdayers since the longer they survive, the more reflect damage and Doomsdayer synergy damage enemy takes. When she's the only one left, which can happen very often because of her high survivability, she can usually win the 1v1 or 1v2 due to her counterattack ability. She's also very useful in boss fights because she can spam her single target ultimate on bosses. So yeah, Lamia in S tier. Next we have Helios. He's in D tier. I feel like he should be in F tier, but making an F tier just for him will give him attention, and Helios doesn't deserve attention. His abilities are all single target, and the damage isn't that high. The strange part is that it has a chance to stun when crit, but Doomsdayer doesn't crit very often. And even if you do crit, it's a single target stun for 1 round. Not to mention Helios is very slow. He also doesn't have the passive that increased reflect, but all other Doomsdayers have it, even the non-royals. The only reason we'll see players still using Helios in their teams, that is solely because he was obtainable from a guild shop with the blue currency, and in the past, there are no better options. But now we can use the blue currency to buy new heroes, like Astrid, or the new heroes in the future. So yeah, never get Helios intentionally. Okay, next we have Madeline. So Madeline has some overloaded abilities. Her ultimate deal damage to all enemies and apply 3 stacks of reflect boost on all allies. That's a lot of reflect boost. Most Doomsdayer heroes' ultimate only grant 2 stacks of reflect boost and that just on themselves. So you can see Merlin will deal damage to all enemies and receive 2 stacks of reflect boost. So that's only on Merlin himself, and that's only 2 stacks. But Madeline is 3 stack and it's on all your allies. So yeah, and her active is similar. Her passive is also really good. The first one is that whenever your units died and there are open slot in your field, then Madeline will summon a Drake. The Drake doesn't do much, but it can serve as distraction. So if enemy Nyx casts her ultimate on one of your Drake, then it's a huge win for you. Her second passive is way more impactful, as it increases your Doomsday Heroes 40% reflect, which is double the amount as Orishita's passive. But it is only on Doomsday Heroes, so she's best with 5 Doomsday team, instead of like mixing Doomsday with other heroes from other synergies. She also grants 50% damage reduction on your backline units. So yeah, that's a pretty good passive ability. On paper, she seems to be a very broken Doomsday hero, but the problem is, I never seen her do super impactful thing. Like I see her here and there in some well Doomsday team, but she doesn't feel irreplaceable. So she's good, but not mandatory. Like if you don't have Madeline, you can get away with replacing her with a 12-star Athena or something. But by no means she's bad. If you get her from your Oracle Summon, you should be happy. And that will put her in A tier.
Next we have Talos. He thought deal damage and provide shield at the same time, which is great, but his speed is only 115, which is not that fast for a shield provider. A lot of damage dealers have 115 speed or above, and that means that Talos' shield might not arrive in time. His second active skill deal damage and stun a target for 2 rounds, which is also not that impactful. And his passive only increase corrode damage by 50%, which is really weird because in Mystifier there's a non-royal hero called Franz whose passive increase corrode damage by 100%, plus Talos doesn't have any ability that can apply corrode to the enemies, so he will be in C tier. But just like Dullahan, he is useful for his Monarch synergy. Next we have Catherine. She's in S tier. I already made a short talk about her, so I'm just gonna play it here.
Catherine will be added to Oracle Shop next season, and she's definitely worth buying. Don't sleep on her just because she's a Mystifier. She's useful across multiple game modes, and she appeared in many clear records. Her ultimate and active skill both deal AoE damage and apply corrode to enemy hit. She can also apply Vital Drain, which is great utility. But what's unique about her is her second passive. The wording is a little ambiguous, but essentially, whenever Catherine receives healing herself, she will heal other allies. On top of that, she grants all allies overheal effect, that is to convert excess healing into attack. Yet, this effect applies to all your units, which will boost your team's damage significantly. Not to mention that she is also a Celestial and a Striker. Thus, whenever your team lacks damage, consider adding Catherine to your team.
Next we have Karnak. He's an old hero at this point, but still very strong. S tier. When any ally crit, he heal your whole team, not just the unit who land the crit, but your whole team. Along with Katrina, your team will have so much sustained survivability. He also increased the limit of crit boost, and he can apply some crit boost himself. His rune skill is also phenomenal. The epic one allows him to execute units below 30% health. This effect works against enemy with fortitude, and it also works on Celestial Trial bosses, despite it says ineffective against elite bosses and monsters. At legendary level, he will apply bind on 2 random enemies for 2 rounds at each round start. You can tell this is an insanely good CC effect just by reading it. So yeah, S tier. Next, Eudora. She belongs to the SS tier. We all know how good she is. If you don't, I'll play one of my shorts for you.
Everyone knows Eudora is broken, but I don't think everyone knows to what extent is she overpowered. Look at this fight. All my other units are 12-star and above, and my Eudora is only at 9-star. But she's dealing the most damage. Her damage is the highest, and it's not even close. What's more broken than Eudora's ultimate is her rune skill, which says every time she takes action, she casts her ultimate once, which means Eudora casts her ultimate on round 1 when she auto attack, and she casts her ultimate twice on round 2 if you have her exclusive room and have the condition met, which is very easy. Sometimes you can even met this condition without playing Ethereals. Everyone gets a free Eudora on the 150th day login. Don't sleep on this one copy of Eudora. Upgrade her talent, upgrade her to 6-star, and get her exclusive room, ideally the legendary room. And she will be way more useful than your other highly advanced units.
Next, I want to talk about Lysandra. She's a special one because she is insanely strong in the season gameplay, at least up until season 2. Because the season ethereal synergy increases the speed of your units. Every increase in Lysandra's speed additionally increases her crit damage by 3% and the crit damage of all allies by 1%. So the season ethereal synergy increases your speed by 100, and that's 100% bonus crit damage, which is really good. But in normal game mode, she's very weak. Thus, I will only put her in B tier. Next, Mastema, I will put her in C tier. He's really bad on his own, because he just deals single target damage and do it twice when crit, and nothing special and nothing fancy, and that's not enough for a royal hero. But note that his synergy is pretty good, so he's Demon and Enchanter. He can activate the 2 Enchanter synergy with Eudora within the Ethereal synergy itself. So by the way, the ultimate damage from Eudora, each instance of her Blazing Melody damage will trigger the Enchanter's Confuse effect. So yeah, so Enchanter is really good with Eudora, so that's why Mastema's synergy is really good. And when paired with Lysandra, they will also activate the 2 demon synergy.
Next, Macaria. I already talked about her in my other videos. She's in A tier. Moving on, we have Victoria. Victoria, I will be putting her in B tier. A lot of people really like Victoria, but if you read her ability, you'll see that all of her abilities are fairly mediocre. Her ult deals 180 damage to frontline enemies. The damage will increase if the target is at low health, up to 100% bonus damage when the target is at 50% missing health, which will increase the damage to 360%. To evaluate this, let's compare with Orion. So Orion's ultimate deal 350% magical damage to frontline enemies. So the best case scenario for Victoria, she will deal almost the same amount of damage as Orion. But keep in mind, Orion is not a royal. He is also the worst Avengers unit in my opinion. So that's why I think Victoria's ultimate is not great. Similarly, her active skill also doesn't do as much. It's just deal damage to a single enemy. Victoria's passive will grant your allies shield equal to 20% of her health when your team score a kill, which is also kinda bad because it's difficult to trigger and it's not that rewarding. But her legendary rune skill is very strong. It's the same as Karnak. It applies bind every round. But if you have enough red rune coin to get a full set of legendary rune for a royal hero, I would give it to Karnak over Victoria because Karnak's epic level effect is better. Victoria's epic level effect is not that great because it's just increased damage when your total number of kill is higher than 2, and at that point it's too late, it's too hard to trigger, and the effect isn't that great. Plus, Karnak is a better hero in general. So before Elmer was released, she was the only Celestial Valianter, and that made her a very important part in Valianter team. She was kind of irreplaceable back then. But now we have Elmer, and Elmer is definitely better than Victoria, so get Elmer if you can. I'd say 7-star Elmer is on the same level as a 11-star or even 12-star Victoria, assuming Victoria doesn't have a legendary exclusive room. However, Elmer is harder to get than Victoria, so if you cannot get Elmer, Victoria is also fine for your Valianter team. She doesn't have the I cannot die if other ally is alive passive of Elmer. But the fact that she shared the Monarch synergy with Macaria can still provide some survivability to your Valianter team. So yeah, she's in B tier. Not the best, but also not the worst. She's in S tier. And we can end on a high note. Both her ultimate and her active skill deal physical damage to a single backline enemy. The unique part of these two abilities is that both of them has a 10% chance to deal 10 times damage in PvP. But I would say this 10 times damage effect is overrated, in a good way. So what I mean is, in PvP, most of the time you don't need this 10 times damage effect because your Nyx can already one-shot the enemy with the original damage without the 10 times multiplier, because she gets so much damage increase from Valianter and the Striker synergy. She has two passive. The first one is she gets to steal enemy shield if your team killed 2 or more enemies. Personally, I don't feel the impact of this passive that much, because by the time we got 2 kills, it's already too late. The battle is already ending, and the stealing shield effect won't make much difference. Her second passive is better. Nyx's basic attack has a 25% chance to be replaced by Nightmare Grip, which is her non-ultimate passive disability. This, combined with her rune skill, can allow Nyx to have insane DPS. Her epic rune skill is that she casts Nightmare Grip 1 time on each action. This is insanely strong for an epic exclusive rune. If you are lucky, she will cast Nightmare Grip twice on round 1, which can kill an enemy before they get to cast their ability on round 2. This rune skill will also make her a nightmare for bosses. Keep in mind, she's already very good against bosses because she has the Striker synergy and she has a 2 single target damage ability. So yeah, Nyx, especially when you get the epic exclusive rune, her legendary one is not worth it. Don't bother to get this one. Just get her epic exclusive rune. If you have that, she's very strong. That's the tier list of all royal heroes. So I think I'm gonna make some adjustment within the tier. So I think Eudora is better than Astrid, but they're close. I think Nyx is gonna be a little higher up, and I think Ariana is gonna be behind Nyx. And I will actually move Gwen to B tier because recently there's an update that is adding Ariana to the Oracle shop, so there's not much point getting Gwen because Ariana is a better option for the demon hero in Glorian. And I think I'm gonna move Dullahan to C tier because the taunt ability, despite is very bad compared to Elmer, it's still a decent crowd control in Mystifier. So yeah, that would be ideal because it will leave Helios in D tier alone. That's what he deserves.
Oh, so Karnak should also be higher up. I think he's a little worse than Seraphina. So, and I think Nyx is better than Lamia. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.